Hi, this is Tom, and thank you for joining. Please consider subscribing. This week we continue the work on the SCX10ii Rod Builder's Kit, and most specifically, building and installing the drive shaft to the transmission and applying the transmission skid plate. So welcome back for another week. Sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy today's video. Thank you. So effectively we're just going to build the drive shafts that come off the transmission that we just finished. So the rear and the front drive shafts. The drive shaft length depends upon the wheelbase that you've selected, so there are multiple components in here, and we'll have to make sure to make the drive shafts for the 12.3 inch wheelbase. So here we go. This is the configuration of the front drive shaft. These are 38 millimeter drive shaft covers. That is for the front. This little plastic slip-on keeps the pin. It's a 2x11 millimeter pin. It keeps that pin from moving around. Then this goes on here. It is slotted. And then this portion of the drive shaft is screwed in with this 3x8 millimeter. Now they call it a 3x8 millimeter, but it's actually 3x6 if you're just measuring the threads. So I don't understand. I don't know if they measured this one differently. Very confused by that. But we adapt. We adapt. Okay, and this calls for a little bit of thread lock as we're going metal into this piece, which is also metal. I think I got it in there, although it's not tightening up. Ah, there it's tightening up. There we go. Okay, let's move on to the other side. So that's one side of it. Here's the other side. The other side does not have the serrated cover. And the pin needs to go through this, not the opening, so through here. Screw that in. And it's getting tight. And one nice hand tighten. So this and like this. Now Oops. We do have to be concerned about drive shaft phasing, so I didn't verify the phase. So here is the big open hole, and you want to make sure the big open hole is here. Big open hole is this way. And then you want to make sure if it's in phase that the big open hole on the ball is the same way. Okay. So I'll explain that a little better if you look. Here's the open hole on the ball, there's the open hole in the ball, and they're in line, they're in phase. There, front drive shaft complete. Now for the rear drive shaft, it's the same concept. We're using these 45mm drive shafts, but it is the exact same concept. Spline covers, pins, joint pins, screws. Sure, I get them in phase. And there is the rear drive shaft in phase. That is the completion of the assembly of the drive shafts. The drive shafts have been assembled, as we saw in the last section. And now we're going to install those onto the transmission and install the skid plate that protects the bottom of the transmission. So with the transmission oriented this way, the side the motor comes out is the front, and the side that's opposite from the motor is the rear. So here is placement of the front drive shaft and the longer rear drive shaft. And now we'll just attach these with these two pin-like screws. And just hand tight. Now these are, Axial calls these the wild boar drive shafts. And some of the information that I've been reading online about remote control cars is some people don't like the plastic. They want a metal drive shaft. And then there is a group of folks out there who like the plastic drive shafts because if you've metaled everything up except for the drive shafts, if something's going to break, if something's going to bind and break, usually it's the drive shafts. And many people like that because they are easy to replace, as opposed to something inside the transmission or in the differentials. So I thought that was an interesting fact that I read online. And now the skid plate. Now we're putting on the skid plate. Okay, it took way longer than I anticipated, but here is the transmission with a bash skid plate installed on the bottom. We're complete for this week. Thank you so much for joining. Stay safe, be well, and come back again next week for our next video on Bryn Mawr RC. Thanks. Bye.